All right, hey, so let's go ahead and start learning about the first language for web design. So the first one is HTML. What we really kind of need to know is what is it and how can I use it. So let's kind of talk about that. Okay, so let's imagine you are part of a newspaper company and someone has written an article for you, and we are talking 1700s. Internet was not invented. Well, if we are looking here at this newspaper article, how do we know to get from this written text all the way to make it look like this when it goes into print? Well, they had to have some type of markup language where they said, hey, the title is going to look like this. It's going to be this size. It's going to be this type of font. So go ahead and pick that stuff out, and that's what you're going to print. And any headings or pictures or anything, they needed to have some type of description of or a markup of what it needs to be so that the written articles, the newspaper, would end up looking like this when it's printed out. Okay? We have that same issue when we're looking at an online article or a website. We have to have some way to mark up and say, hey, this title is a title, or it's the main heading. This should be in bold. We need to have some way to identify that. Hey, this is the author. This could be a subheading. Best YouTube channels to learn ethical hacking. We're going to need to be able to identify that. Okay? So that's where HTML comes in. So HTML, we need to define what is it and how to use it. Okay? So HTML really stands for, it's an acronym, it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Okay? Hypertext because you can click on text and go to different pages. It also means that it's not linear. You're not going from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. You could have a link or hypertext, a hyperlink that you could click and go from step 1 to step 3, or page 1 to page 3, or a completely different website. You could bounce around all over the World Wide Web. Okay, markup because the HTML tags that we use mark up the text that they contain, and they say that it's a certain type of text, like this is a title, this is a paragraph. Okay, and then language, the last part of that acronym, is because it is the language that we use to communicate with internet browsers, the Chrome browser, Microsoft Edge, Mozilla, Opera, any other browser. We need to be able to communicate with the browser what the page should look like, and that's what HTML is. So let's kind of look at how we can use that. Okay, so HTML, we're kind of understanding that it gives structure to our page. Okay, so this, if you kind of think of all HTML tags or elements as containers, then what they contain is what they are describing. So my main element that I may have for containing all of my markup language could be HTML. And actually it should be, because everything inside of there is what I am marking up. Okay, so if we treat that as a box, then if I have I want to mark up what I will see on the page, then I might use another element called the body element, which I would put an opening tag, I would put the body of my website, and then I would put a closing tag, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Inside my body, I could have other text that I'm identifying as the main heading. So I use a markup language, HTML tags, to say, hey, this is the main heading. I could have paragraphs inside of my body that between these tags is a paragraph. Okay, so let's kind of look at the syntax of how we would kind of write this. Okay, so really simply, the syntax for HTML is basically we have a left angle bracket and then my element type. So I can't create my own. There are specific ones that I would have to use to describe the text that it contains. And then it's followed by a right angle bracket. So an example, this would be the opening tag of a paragraph. This would be the opening tag of a body. This would be the opening tag of an H1 element or the main heading. Okay, if we look down here, every element, almost every single element in HTML contains an opening tag and a closing tag. You can tell the difference between an opening tag and a closing tag because there's a slash right before the element type and after the left angle bracket. Okay, that would say to the browsers you are communicating that this is the end of the element, and so you're not describing anything else outside of that as this element type. So this would be an example of what it would look like. This would be the closing tag of the paragraph element. This would be the closing tag of the body element. This would be the closing tag of an H1 element. Okay? So to review, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's used to mark up and describe the text that is on our website. It's not really used for the look. It is used to describe and structure our website. We say, hey, this text right here is actually a paragraph. This text is actually a title. This text is a date. This text is the author information. Okay? And we use the HTML syntax is to have, when we're describing an element, is to use an opening tag and a closing tag. There are a couple exceptions to the rule. There are more stuff that we could use in our syntax that we will be learning. But this is the main thing that we need to know for being able to start creating websites or designing and marking up our text for what we want it to be structured as for designing our website. All right, good luck and have fun.